Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to go my review of Monday Night Raw. Starting off the night, we have Liv Morgan coming out to the ring, grabs a microphone. Liv also brings out Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae. After that, Nia Jax grabs a microphone, mocks Raquel. Nia talks about Jade, Bianca, and Naomi. Jade and Bianca and Naomi come out to the ring, as well as Io Sky. Liv says that there's 5 of them and only 4 of them. And after that, Rhea Ripley's music hits. She comes out to the ring wearing the protective mask, protecting the orbital bone. She grabs a microphone. Rhea yells War Games, and then all of a sudden an all-out brawl happens in the middle of the ring. So it looks like we have officially our 5v5 women's matchup for the War Games at Survivor Series. Definitely excited for that matchup and definitely looking forward to that at Survivor Series. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of the night. It is the LWO. It's Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega versus Ivy Nile and Chad Gable. I thought it was a good match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup between both teams, with Rey hitting a Hurricane Rana on Chad Gable in the middle of the ring. Rey and Zelina were keeping the pace of the match. Zelina hits a step-up enziguri on Gable. Rey then hits a springboard moonsault. And then Rey hits a 619, pins for the 3. And your winners of the match are Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega. After the match, a video package was played showing The Miz and the Wyatts, but it looks like The Miz is joining the Final Testament. It looks like the Final Testament is playing mind games with the Wyatt 6. Moving on from that, we have Gunther. Gunther spots Damian Priest backstage. He ends up attacking Damian Priest, but Priest fights off the attack from Gunther. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's an Intercontinental Championship matchup. It is Braun Breaker defending the Intercontinental title against Sheamus. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Sheamus and Breaker, with Breaker keeping the pace of the match. Sheamus hits a white noise for a near fall. Breaker gets up, hits a Frankensteiner on Sheamus. Breaker then goes for a spear on Sheamus, but Sheamus counters it with a knee. Sheamus then goes for a bro kick, and then Breaker counters it with a spear. Kaiser then comes out of the ring, attacks Breaker, and the match ends in a disqualification. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's a tag team matchup between the War Raiders taking on Dominic Mysterio and Carlito from the Judgment Day. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with the War Raiders keeping the pace of the match, and the War Raiders end up hitting the finish. Pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the War Raiders. After the match, JD McDonough and Finn Balor come out to the ring to attack the War Raiders. Moving on from that, we go to our next match of the night. It's Seth Rollins taking on Bronson Reed. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Rollins and Reed. The Bloodline end up showing up. Jimmy, Jay, Zayn are here as well. Jimmy, Jay, and Zayn attack the Bloodline. Rollins then was keeping the pace of the match. Reed hits a devastating powerbomb on Rollins for a near fall. Rollins then gets up. Rollins hits a powerbomb on Reed. Rollins then hits a springboard moonsault as well. Rollins then goes to the top rope, hits a frog splash on Reed for a near fall. Rollins then hits a pedigree for a near fall in the middle of the ring. Rollins then hits a foot stomp as well. Solo Sikoa is here. He is standing on the announce table, causing a distraction. Reed then hits a Death Valley driver on Rollins, and then Reed hits his signature tsunami off the top rope, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Bronson Reed. A couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to Monday Night Raw before I get the hell up out of here. And there's a lot to talk about, man. So, number one, was it a good show? Yes. Definitely was a good show. I will say this, though. I think ever since Raw went to 2 hours, I think it kind of took a little bit away from Monday Night Raw. I know a lot of people were anticipating how good the show might be with Raw only being 2 hours. Now, you gotta understand, Raw has been 3 hours for a very, very long time. And, usually around the third hour, the show kind of, dies off. Kind of, it dims down. It's not, as exciting or anticipated as, it was the first 2 hours of Monday Night Raw. But I feel like something's kind of changed with Monday Night Raw ever since they went to 2 hours. But like I said, I digress. Monday Night Raw last night was not a bad show. Or on Monday Night Raw, it was not a bad show at all. At all. Obviously, there's a lot of still unanswered questions. Obviously, if you look at the Bloodline, and I've been, talking about the Bloodline, I feel like since I've been blue in the face, man. But the Bloodline storylines obviously incorporated itself not only on SmackDown, but as well as Monday Night Raw, now with the addition of Jey Uso, who was predominantly on Monday Night Raw, and still is. Now they also acquired Sami Zayn to be a part of the original Bloodline. So for the past couple weeks, we've been seeing Sami Zayn trying to acquire talent to join them to take on Solo Sikoa's new Bloodline, whether it be LA Knight, whether it be Rey Mysterio. And then when they approached Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw, Rollins told him flat out, look, I don't mind joining Zayn or Jimmy and Jay. The issue that Rollins has is joining up with Roman Reigns. Now, if you guys remember back at WrestleMania 40, Rollins went up against Dwayne The Rock Johnson as well as Roman Reigns when Rollins was teaming up with Cody Rhodes. So, and again, we haven't seen Seth Rollins really team with Roman Reigns ever since their time when they were part of the Shield, which was one of the best stables in WWE history. But again, that was then, this is now. A lot of people, including myself, with the addition of Bronson Reed joining Solo Sikoa's new bloodline and the history that Bronson Reed has with Seth Rollins, a lot of people were saying, oh, it's definitely going to be Seth Rollins. At this point, man, I don't really know. Like I said, Monday Night Raw, Seth Rollins blatantly told Zayn, Jimmy, and Jay that he wants no ties to this bloodline storyline, and he definitely doesn't want anything to do with Roman Reigns. So it definitely leaves that question mark on who is going to be the fifth man to join Roman Reigns' bloodline. Now, I have a couple scenarios that I want to lay out for you guys that I think might be maybe the top three scenarios that might end up happening as far as who could be the fifth member of joining Roman Reigns' bloodline. Number one, obviously, would be Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is a hot topic. And again, I will reiterate, there's a little hostility there between Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins. So ironically, storyline-based, it would make sense for Rollins to join Jimmy, Jay, Zayn, and Roman to take on Solo Sikoa's new bloodline. But taking Rollins out of the picture for 1 second, then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, who would the fifth person be if it's not going to be Seth Rollins? To me, the top three names that I can actually think of that would maybe logically make sense. Number one, the most, pretty much the high probability of who it could possibly be Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Now, I mentioned this for the past couple of weeks to you guys that, The Rock obviously has some ties with the bloodline. The last time we seen Dwayne The Rock Johnson at a WWE event was at Bad Blood in Atlanta, where he was standing at the stage and looking on at Roman, Jimmy, and I believe it was also Cody Rhodes when Roman and Cody were teaming up to take on Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. So The Rock is definitely, it could be a high probability it could be The Rock. Now, and the reason why I say this is because obviously Paul Heyman is a wild card in this, in the aspect of when are we going to see Paul Heyman come back? Are we going to see Paul? Now, if you guys remember when the original bloodline happened, when Dwayne The Rock Johnson was teaming up with Roman, Paul Heyman had two phones. One was between Roman and Paul, and the other phone was between Paul Heyman and The Rock. Now, after Raw went off the air, was closing, or SmackDown, I believe, last week, you saw Roman trying to, I believe, contact somebody, and the phone call didn't go through or something like that. So, being as it may, and the fact that we saw The Rock at Bad Blood, there's a very good chance that it could be Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Now, the other name that popped up is CM Punk. Now, I don't know for sure how CM Punk would fit into this fold. Obviously, Punk is a Paul Heyman guy. He's obviously close friends with Roman Reigns. And, maybe they want to keep that friendship going. I don't know. But what I will say is this. Do I think logically it makes a lot of sense for Punk to be a part of this? In my honest opinion, no. I don't think it would make a lot of sense for Punk to be a part of this bloodline storyline. Now, I'm not saying CM Punk will not be at Survivor Series. There's also a very good chance that we will see Phil Brooks, or a.k.a. CM Punk, at Survivor Series next weekend, possibly in the conversation with Gunther and Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight title. Now, if Gunther beats Priest, I can totally see, some kind of scenario where CM Punk comes out to the ring and gets face-to-face with Gunther to be the new number one contender to Gunther's World Heavyweight title. That I can totally see. But CM Punk being a part of the Bloodline storyline and being a part of a cage match, even though the last time we've seen Punk in action was against Drew McIntyre in a hellish Hell in a Cell match that they put on, which was a great match. Probably one of Punk's best matches since he's, in his career so far since he's been back with WWE. I don't know if it's going to be CM Punk, man. I know another name that was floating around is Brock Lesnar. To me, Brock, I know there has been rumors and speculation that Brock Lesnar could possibly be making his way back to WWE, especially after all the allegations and everything else like that. There has been conversations and rumors speculated that Lesnar will return to WWE possibly around when Raw goes to Netflix in January, where Raw and I believe Raw will exclusively be showcased on Netflix. And I know, Raw's first show on Netflix is going to be huge. I know there's rumors of Becky Lynch, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But they want to make the show big. They want to make the show astronomically huge and eye-opening, and I'm all for it. But Lesnar, I don't know if Lesnar's going to come back into the fold right now. So, to me, the most logical choice, if it's not CM Punk or Seth Rollins. I would say if it's not Seth Rollins, I would say maybe it's Dwayne The Rock Johnson. But again, it is kind of hard to see The Rock join Roman, or I can see The Rock. Actually, to be honest with you, I can see The Rock joining Roman in this aspect only due to the fact that it could be leading into another storyline leading up to WrestleMania 41 in Vegas, where, when The Rock saw Roman and Cody teaming up, maybe it pissed off Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but The Rock plays it off. He joins Roman Reigns' bloodline to take on Solo's bloodline, but then in that match at War Games, Rock turns his back on Roman, which ultimately allows Solo Sikoa's bloodline to win over Roman's bloodline. And then we get a matchup possibly where we might see Dwayne The Rock Johnson take on Roman Reigns in Vegas for WrestleMania 41. That also could be a very high probability of that happening. So there's a lot of angles that are going to be going into this leading up to War Games next weekend. So again, a lot of eyes are going to be on, okay, what the hell is the bloodline going to do now? What's Roman going to do now? Who was Roman trying to call? Who was Jay telling Roman to call and everything else like that? Are we going to see Paul Heyman? There's still a lot of unanswered questions with the bloodline right now. And I think that's one of the best things going right now in professional wrestling, storyline-wise, is the bloodline, because you never know what's going to happen. And I've mentioned this multiple times in the past, man, whenever it relates to the bloodline, it just gets better over time. It's like a fine wine. And I think it's one of the best, if not the best storyline going on in professional wrestling. So again, my top three choices that would be the fifth member to join Roman Reigns' bloodline would either be Seth Rollins, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, or CM Punk to be the fifth member that will join Roman Reigns' bloodline. The other thing I want to talk about is Netflix. I wanted to talk about that and give my thoughts on that and give my opinion about that and let you guys know how I feel about it. So, if you guys don't know, Raw has been exclusively with USA Network for many, many years. Many, many years. That TV contract is no longer going to be available between USA Network and Raw going into January 2025. Now, next year, starting January 2025, Raw will be shown exclusively on Netflix. Now, this is a big deal for multiple reasons. Obviously, Raw has never been a part of a streaming platform like a Netflix or HBO Max. This is the first time Raw has ever been on a streaming platform. And what does this? And again, what does this mean? This means obviously it's going to open up a lot more eyeballs to Monday Night Raw, to WWE, because there's a lot of people that have Netflix, and people are going to be tuning into the show, whether they're the first time watching wrestling or people that are fans of wrestling going over to purchase Netflix to watch Monday Night Raw. It's a win-win for both companies, whether it be WWE or Netflix. With that being said, like I mentioned earlier with Becky Lynch, now I know, and the people that I've talked to, they've been telling me now for the past couple of weeks that Raw's debut episode on Netflix is supposed to be astronomically huge, with the likes of CM Punk being on that show, Roman, Cody Rhodes, and also the possibility of a return of Becky Lynch. Now, I think Becky Lynch put out a memoir not too long ago. I think she's making a book, if I'm not mistaken, and she's keeping her options open. It's one of those things where it's never say never. Now, do I think Becky Lynch will return to WWE or Monday Night Raw? Yes, I do. I think Triple H and WWE and everybody involved over there are going to do everything they can to bring in Becky, especially on the debut episode of Raw on Netflix. Even Dwayne The Rock Johnson's also rumored to be a part of this show as well. So it's going to be a huge show. The one downside I will say about this, when it pertains to Monday Night Raw and Netflix, now Raw is going to be showcased, I think, live on Netflix every single Monday like it's been on the USA Network moving forward, starting January 2025. My issue with this, and the only issue that I have, is if you guys go back to this past weekend, you saw the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight on Netflix live. Now, a lot of people that, watched the fight didn't really actually get to see the entire fight because of buffering issues and lag and everything else like that happened on, the Netflix server when everybody was watching the fight. So I think when that happened, ultimately knowing that Raw is going over to Netflix, a lot of people that are fans of Raw or WWE were kind of worried that, okay, this was a live boxing event. Raw is going to be live every Monday on Netflix. Are we going to run into these same kind of issues moving into next year? And that's still up in the air. Hopefully Netflix can fix the issues that happened this past weekend between the Tyson and Jake Paul fight, where going into January 2025 and Raw debuts on Netflix, we don't have the same issues that we saw in the Jake Paul fight and Mike Tyson fight going over to Raw with Netflix next year. So, but my thought process is this, man. I think it's a win-win for Raw. I think it's a good thing for Raw to be on Netflix. I mean, if you look at even AEW, they're trying to work with HBO Max, and I'm not saying, WWE is the same as AEW. I'm not saying that. But the way that, basic television anymore is not the same. A lot of it's going to, streaming networks, whether it be Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, Sling TV. So there's a lot of streaming platforms out there that are looking to acquire something like professional wrestling that's going to be around 52 weeks out of the year. So, like, if you look at, the NFL or, the NBA or MLB, you're not getting football games 52 weeks out of the year. You're not getting NBA games 52 weeks out of the year. It's not going to happen. Same thing with baseball. So with pro wrestling, it's 52 weeks every single week for the entire year. So other streaming platforms are probably looking into that and be like, you know what? This is something that I can have, weekly episodic television that's live every single week. Because, like I said, you're not getting, sport programming like football and baseball and basketball every single, week for the entire 52 weeks out of the year. That's not going to happen. Never has, never will. So, again, I think it's a win-win. I don't think it's a bad thing for Raw to go over Netflix. Hopefully they can fix the issues that they had this past weekend pertaining to Netflix, and hopefully that does not happen when it pertains to Monday Night Raw going over to Netflix in January 2025. But with that being said, man, and like I said, I think Raw, for me personally, I don't think there's that many issues with Raw. I mean, I think the other thing that's kind of killing the momentum for Raw and SmackDown is that a lot of the shows as of late have been taped. And I think that kind of takes away the nostalgia of Monday Night Raw with it not being live. But I also understand that I think, WWE is giving some talent, time off for the holidays, which I agree with. Everybody should spend time with their families and stuff like that for the holidays, which I get that. But it does kind of take away a little bit of the nostalgia of the show, with Monday Night Raw always being live or SmackDown being live. So it kind of takes away from Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. But with that being said, are they still tying up loose ends leading up to Survivor Series? Absolutely. I mean, the Bloodline storyline is getting better and better and better until we get the final product being the War Games matchup, the Civil War, if you will, between the original Bloodline and the new Bloodline being headlined by Solo Sikoa. So again, I mean, there's still a lot of unanswered questions. And I think, leading up to SmackDown, obviously, we get some answers from what Roman's going to do. We might not even know who the fifth man is for Roman's team until Survivor Series, until that night, when they all walk out to the arena. Then maybe Paul comes out and say, hey, I found you a fifth guy, and it's either Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or CM Punk or possibly Brock Lesnar to be the fifth guy to join Roman Reigns' original Bloodline. Now, I also say this in the aspects of Solo Sikoa's new Bloodline. The addition to Bronson Reed, I mean, Bronson Reed fits in there like a glove, man. Bronson Reed, for what he was on the roster and the fact that he wasn't really getting main event spots, he wasn't really on a lot of PLEs for WWE. And then you look at it now where Bronson Reed's, running roughshod on the roster on Monday Night Raw, and now he's in a main event match with the biggest storyline of all professional wrestling, and he's in the main event for Survivor Series. I mean, it just goes to show you that Bronson Reed, A, he's not nobody to mess around with, and B, he has busted his ass to get to the part where now he's in the main event scene like he wanted to be, and now he's in the biggest storyline of all professional wrestling right now, being attached to this Bloodline storyline. So you got to give credit where credit's due, man. Bronson Reed is a force to be reckoned with, and the fact that, Christ, man, if you look at Solo's stable right now as far as this War Games matchup, man, they are stacked from top to bottom, whether it be Solo, whether it be Bronson Reed, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa. I mean, that whole new Bloodline faction with the addition of Bronson Reed, man, they looked indestructible. So I don't know who this fifth guy is going to be for Roman, but hopefully it's a powerhouse guy that can, take on the likes of a Jacob Fatu or a Bronson Reed, because, Jimmy and Jay and Zayn are going to have their handfuls alone with, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa. So having someone like Jacob Fatu or Solo Sikoa and Bronson Reed, you're going to have somebody that can, compete one-on-one with Bronson Reed, because Bronson Reed ain't no small guy. I mean, the guy's walking around probably almost pushing 4 bills. So, I mean, and he's a force to be reckoned with, man. I would not want to take that goddamn tsunami off the top rope from Bronson Reed. The guy's a monster. So, again, you had to look at the fact that, okay, who would fit that void to be the fifth member for Roman's team. And like I mentioned earlier, it's only going to be maybe 3 guys. I know a lot of people are pointing the finger towards Seth, and maybe Seth will join, but I feel like after what Seth said on Monday Night Raw, that he has no aspirations whatsoever to join Roman, it would kind of be stupid, if you ask me, to have Rollins show up and be like, you know what, yeah, I'm going to join you. You know what I mean? After everything that he said on Monday Night Raw. I just think it might be someone else. And a lot of people are saying the same thing, that it might not be Rollins. It might be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It might be CM Punk. Or it possibly could be maybe, a small maybe, it could be Brock Lesnar. Who knows? I will say this. I think if it's CM Punk, I think CM Punk fits more into the fold of the championship scene right now between Damian Priest and Gunther. If Gunther beats Damian Priest, I would have Punk come out, get face-to-face with Gunther, showing Gunther that CM Punk is the new number one contender for Gunther's World Heavyweight title. To me, that makes the most sense, whether Punk wins the title or not. And not only that, if Punk does beat Gunther for that title, then we could possibly see at WrestleMania 41, we finally get the match that we all wanted to see between CM Punk defending that belt against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 41, whether it's night 1 or night 2, which I'm all for that. Obviously, there's some unfinished business there between Seth Rollins and CM Punk. So that also could be an option. So when you look at the Survivor Series matchup and you take CM Punk out of the picture, who's the top two guys left? If it's not Seth Rollins, it would have to be Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? So again, I feel like SmackDown is going to be very interesting this week leading up to Survivor Series to see what's going to happen. Are they going to actually announce and find the fifth guy? Is Paul Heyman going to be on SmackDown? Or are we not going to know who the hell this fifth person is until the night of Survivor Series when, Roman Reigns walks out with his original bloodline with 4 guys, and all of a sudden Paul Heyman comes out and says, hey, I found you that fifth guy. And it's, Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Brock Lesnar or possibly maybe Seth Rollins. Who knows? But in my honest opinion, I don't know if it is going to be Seth. I don't know. I think depending, on basically on what Seth had said on Monday Night Raw to Jimmy, Jay, and Zayn, saying that he has, wants nothing to do with the bloodline and wants nothing to do with Roman, then, I'd be very surprised if the rebuttal is, okay, well, you know what, Rollins is going to join Roman Reigns anyway after what he said on Monday Night Raw. So, I don't know. But again, it's one of those interesting things, man, that people really need to pay attention to. And this is one of the things that I wish AEW would do, is the anticipation, the excitement, the emotion. It brings people in. You know what I mean? It's going to bring you into Monday Night Raw or SmackDown this week because you want to know, man, who the hell is going to be this fifth guy joining Roman Reigns? And I hate saying this, but this is the same shit that we saw back in the day for WCW. When Hall and Nash came over and they were the outsiders, I believe it was Bash at the Beach. And, you seen, I think it was Randy. Yeah, it was Randy, Lex, and Sting. They were part of Team WCW. And then you had the outsiders with Hall and Nash. So you got Team WCW outside, out in the ring. Hall and Nash come out to the ring with nobody yet. And it's 2-on-3. And, Hall and Nash are getting their asses kicked. And then all of a sudden we see Hogan with the red and yellow. Him walking down. Everybody's thinking that he's going to join Team WCW. And all of a sudden, Randy Savage is laying in the middle of the ring. Hogan pushes away the referee. And then Hogan hits his signature leg drop on Randy Savage, being heel and joining and creating, the NWO, which was a synonymous, stable in all professional wrestling. So we don't know. I think, smart money, if I had to have the pen right now creatively for WWE, how I would do this, at least when it pertains to CM Punk and, the War Games matchup with Phil Brooks, I would have him come out, have Gunther probably beat Priest. Punk walks out to the ring, gets face-to-face with Gunther to show Gunther, hey, I'm back. I'm the new number one contender for the World Heavyweight title. Bam, there you go. As far as the War Games matchup, I would say Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Heyman makes the call to The Rock. The Rock's all for it initially. He joins Roman's, original bloodline to take on Solo's bloodline. But in the matchup, Rock turns heel or stays heel, turns his back on Roman, hits, the people's elbow or, whatever in the middle of the ring on Roman, leaving Roman in the middle of the ring. Solo goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and now we have Rock and Roman and their feud leading up to WrestleMania 41 in Vegas for the next WrestleMania. I think that writes itself, to be honest with you, because again, we don't know what The Rock's mindset is with the entire Roman Reigns situation, because at one point last year at WrestleMania 40, Rock teamed up with Roman. And then after that, we did not see The Rock again until Bad Blood, when Roman was teaming up with Cody Rhodes. And knowing Cody has hostility and Rock has hostility with Rhodes and vice versa, this might be something where Rock took it as a slap in the face on everything they were trying to do and trying to build last year leading up to WrestleMania. Now that Rock sees Roman teaming up with Cody, it might have pissed The Rock off. Rock hasn't said anything. Rock joins Roman's bloodline for the War Games matchup. And then Rock turns his back on Roman. Roman and Rock feud leading up to WrestleMania 41, and they have a matchup on either night 1 or night 2 in Las Vegas. It writes itself. And like I said, I will reiterate, When Paul Heyman was in the fold of the Roman's original bloodline, Paul Heyman had 2 phones. One between him and Roman, and one between him and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So again, is Paul going to make that call to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to join Roman Reigns and his original bloodline to take on Solo Sikoa and his new bloodline? So again, there's still a lot of questions that still need answers, and hopefully we get some kind of insight on what the hell is going on here with Roman Reigns and his bloodline on Friday Night SmackDown. But with that being said, this is my review of Monday Night Raw. I hope you guys are out there staying safe, be careful, and remember, stay classic.